news about Tadesawe Kanda. Also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Ocansey. Tonight, thousands of National Democratic Congress, NDC, and other like-minded persons turn out across the country in protest of the Electoral Commission's decision not to subject the voters' register to a forensic audit. What next after the protest? Stay with us. We have a conversation tonight. Also, the Director General manifesto check here to explore the story of Ghana's VAT regime and how the NPP is promising to undo their own deeds. Tonight, we have a conversation. As always, you're an integral part of it. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Let's get talking. Well, let's settle for Ghana Breeze.
The opposition National Democratic Congress says it has detected over 250,000 instances of irregularities in the electoral roll. The party on Tuesday spearheaded a nationwide protest to press home the demand for a forensic audit. In a petition submitted to the Electoral Commission, the party demands an independent forensic audit of the voters' register and its IT system, re-exhibit the register after the forensic audit, and review and correct all unauthorized transfers.
What we are doing is to prevent war in this country. If you want to prevent war, you fight to remove everything that has the tendency to generate into war. There is no option. There is no sitting on the fence. If you sit on the fence today and allow conflict to mature into war, you will be conscripted into the army to fight and die. So instead of waiting for war to break, for you to be conscripted to go and fight and die, fight now against the elements that are generating the conflict.
The Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, CODEO, is urging the Electoral Commission to address the concerns of all stakeholders to boost their confidence and trust in the voter register. This is the group's reaction to calls for a forensic audit of the voters' register. Part of the statement released by CODEO states that the utility of the exhibition exercise is meant to expose and correct discrepancies, inaccuracies, and any issues with the register. This is the reason all stakeholders are encouraged to take the exhibition seriously, including the political parties, aspiring candidates, and the public. The ECOWAS Commission has urged the National Democratic Congress and the Electoral Commission to resolve their differences internally amidst escalating tensions over the voters' register. This call comes in the wake of a protest by the NDC over alleged errors in the register.
Elections within the region have often become like triggers of conflicts, and they actually become conflicts when issues are not handled well. And we hope that these are some of the issues that are coming up, and we pray that the stakeholders involved will find a way of having this handled amicably so that everybody will be satisfied going into the elections.
The nation's Chief Imam has added his voice to the ongoing concerns about the political climate as Ghana approaches its next election. Speaking through his spokesperson Sheikh Armiyao, the Chief Imam stressed the importance of peace, urging political leaders and stakeholders to ensure transparency and accountability in the election process.
As citizens, he said we must keep the peace. He calls on all those who are stakeholders in our election processes, i.e. the EC must do all that it takes to ensure that there is transparency and accountability, to ensure that we can have a credible election that will guarantee a credible result. Everything that the EC must do, he must make sure they do so. It calls on the political parties to be worried, to be cautious about the way they speak to their supporters, the vitriolics, the diatribes, and some of the fierce, statements that we see being put out there.
And Cape Coast Sports Stadiums for renovations disrupting the Ghana Premier League season. This highlights deeper issues of poor stadium maintenance and the neglect of domestic leagues, affecting teams like Dreams FC and Accra Hearts of Oak. Meanwhile, 3 sports sources at the Jubilee House revealed that the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has sacked the Director General of the National Sports Authority, Doji Numekevo, from his role with immediate effect.
Definitely going to affect how they run their business. This rescheduling of venues definitely is going to affect spectating. Who is going to travel to Sogakope to watch Accra Lions? Players are going to travel longer than they had anticipated at the start of the season. So it is not the best of things. I think we have a crisis on our hands. Only that what the clubs are doing is to make sure it doesn't get overblown. But seriously, if you go into the various camps and listen to the conversations going on, they are all not happy with the closure of about 4 facilities across the country.
It's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. And coming up next, what next after the NDC's mega protest against the Electoral Commission? That's the question tonight. And already NDC giving indications of what's going to be coming up next and why really they want the Electoral Commission to heed to that call that they are making. And we remain your election command center. We were in all 16 regions across the country where this protest took place. And this was a protest that the NDC captioned as "Enough is Enough." And it took place across all 16 regions of the country. And in all these 16 regions, we witnessed a presentation of the petition to the various Electoral Commission offices within those regions. Here in the Greater Accra region, started off at the Kwame Nkrumah Circle, where Johnson Esedunketia, the national chairman of the party, together with the minority leader, also Dr. Kesla Toforsing, interacted with my colleague Eric Mawenegbeta, who was on the ground with us, with the team. Take a look.
There is no option. There's no sitting on the fence. If you sit on the fence today and allow conflict to mature into war, you will be conscripted into the army to fight and die.
Take this up further in Parliament and demand that a joint parliamentary committee of some sort looks into the contents on the register.
The truth is that it's so obvious for anyone to notice that the electoral register has been tampered with. The Electoral Commission has no option than to avail himself and the register for a possible forensic audit and a system audit. It is for all of us to understand that this must be done to preserve the peace of our country. And so we are demanding that as a matter of urgency, she should make the register available for forensic and a system audit. That must be done. It is non-negotiable. We are demanding that we insist it should be done before the elections.
And for you in Parliament, the big question is, what course of action possibly could you take in Parliament as well in relation to this?
We started a call from Parliament. After this demonstration, we'll look at our options. And if we have to recall Parliament for this, we will do so. I can't give you details, but what I can tell you is that don't be surprised to expect a possible recall of Parliament for us to consider the need for this register to be properly audited. Because we insist that from the level of tampering that we have seen,
As Minority Leader Dr. Kesela Tofosi, recall of Parliament is one of the options that the NDC is also considering beyond today. But at the end of the day, they presented a petition at the Electoral Commission headquarters here in Accra. Similar petitions were presented at all the regional levels where this demonstration took place. But here in Accra, the party chair presented the petition, read it out, and was received by a Deputy Commissioner at the Electoral Commission in charge of operations, Samuel Tete. Take a look.
If the findings of the forensic audit suggest, as we believe, that the register has been badly compromised, then we demand that there will be a re-exhibition of the register after the forensic audit, so that we'll be able to check everything that has gone wrong in the register and prepare ourselves for a credible election. We want the commission to review and correct all the unauthorized transfers which they themselves have admitted to. We want them to adopt a revised timetable for electoral activities. Why do we say so? We don't have a credible register as yet, and printing of ballot papers and other activities are based on a credible voter register. So we think that this forensic audit must take place. We must get a credible register acceptable to all stakeholders before the other activities such as printing of ballot papers commences. So, gentlemen, I want you to know the commissioner who is receiving the petition on our behalf. Your name and designation.
My name is Samuel Tete, the Deputy Chairman in charge of.
That's Samuel Tete there, Deputy Commissioner in charge of operations at the Electoral Commission. That was not the only place they presented a petition here. They went to Parliament as well, and to present a petition to the Speaker of Parliament. That was also received by the Majority Leader in Parliament, together with the Minority Leader, who was actually with the protesters as well earlier today. Alexander Fenyamarkin had a few words. Take a look.
I believe that this is one of the several ways of enriching our democracy. So I agree with the Minority Leader that as a House, we may have to look at the issues you presented, and I encourage all stakeholders to also avail themselves. I standing here is on record of having taken EC to the Supreme Court to stop a whole these assembly elections for some irregularities and illegalities, and I made my case at the Supreme Court. That's a matter of record. And I believe that if there are genuine concerns, we can all raise it and discuss them on the table by following lawful means.
So that's Alexander Fenyamarkin, the Majority Leader, says if there are genuine concerns, he's of the belief that it must be looked into. Receiving the petition on behalf of the Speaker of Parliament, Right Honourable Abansuma Akinfo Bagbin, in Parliament earlier today. But what are the concerns and the issues, the demands of the NDC in this petition that they presented to these two crucial bodies in our democracy? First off, permit an independent forensic audit of the voters' register and its IT system. That's the demand, number one. Two, convene stakeholders for collaboration. Also, agree to publish the findings of the forensic audit if eventually conducted. And the fourth demand, re-exhibit the register after the forensic audit. We want that to be done. And also, review and correct all unauthorized transfers. Adopt a revised timeline for electoral activities. Clearly acknowledging the fact that if all of these things are to be done with the forensic audit and so on, that definitely will affect the published calendar of activities for the Electoral Commission. We have 81 days, so you say probably 80 days to December 7 elections. They know that there has to be a review of the timelines for the electoral activities. Finally, institute accountability and integrity measures going into the election. So these are the demands, essentially, that the NDC captured in that petition presented earlier today. This was a demonstration that captured majority of persons who were aligned with the NDC, but also the Progressive People's Party had some of their members on the streets. The young and the old were also on the street. Talk about the old. In the Western region, Pakojo Peters, my colleague, interacted with a 96-year-old woman who had a reason to be on the streets today. Take a look.
I mean, I was not on the actual demonstration.
Number one, the brand
96. Wow.
Well, that's Grandma Gladys there, 96 years old, from Efiekoma there in Takrady. And that's my colleague, Pakojo Peters, interacting with her. Well, let's stay a bit further on this matter. Sheikh Arimi Shaibu is a spokesperson of the National Chief Imam. He's joining us on Zoom. Sheikh, Assalamu alaikum to you. Now, thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. And I'm sure that the Chief Imam is watching closely how things are playing out between the Electoral Commission and the NDC. And up to this moment, does he lose sleep over how things are playing out now?
Indeed, as at about several days ago, when I went to just give him some briefing about the impending demonstration by the NDC and other things having to do with the electoral environment and the rising tension in the country, and that religious leaders and other concerned are all raising their voices, and it will be necessary that he also, offers his elderly, advice. And I think that when I told him that, he felt worried. After I had suggested to him that tomorrow, Wednesday, was when we wanted to put the thing before his advisory board. Indeed, he called me back and asked that it will be too late to deal with this thing on Wednesday, so we should quickly organize. That's how come we had to organize a sort of a press conference with some few media houses just this afternoon. So he has received the information with anxiety, with fear, with trepidation, with concern. At age 105, he is still worried about the state of a country that he cherishes so much, and which is on the verge of being broken apart because we are going to have an election. And it's a worrying for him also that every electoral cycle, with tensions in the country have to really reach this boiling point before we engage in the election. So it's really a matter of worry for him. Indeed, the two forerunners, the two most important flag bearers, all of them refer to him as their father. In fact, the former President John Dramani Mahama, refers to the Chief Imam, and indeed he said it's not just referring, but that's the reality, that his father handed him over to the National Chief Imam. So his father, His Excellency Vice President Bawumia, also, Chief Imam accepts him as his son. And from the day one he got into this position, it has been demonstrated that he accepts Chief Imam as his father. And that's why the Chief Imam feels that he has now the grounds to be able to talk to his own children, that he is concerned about what is happening, and if they could use their influence to talk to their own grassroots supporters to be careful, to be modest, and to be mindful of what we will do to throw this country into violence. Having to learn the lesson from other other countries. So indeed he's speaking to all the flag bearers, but he's speaking to his own children. His two children.
Right, and you talk about the two children of the Chief Imam, then rightly said, but with this specific issue, it's not so much about the NDC and the NPP. It's a lot more about the NDC and the concerns they have about or with the Electoral Commission, is it not?
Yes, I mean, it is true, but, you know, the issue about the election involves a number of stakeholders. So this issue cannot be discussed in isolation. So whatever decision is taken, it could have implications for MPP, it has implications for NDC, and indeed it has implications for, you know, all the other, you know, flag bearers of the other parties, and indeed the independent candidates are also there. And whatever happens to the voters register, you know, has implications for the chances of all these candidates. And that's why the Chief Imam thinks that we should tread cautiously. We should tread cautiously and find a way to unravel the stalemate in such a way that we will find a resolution to the problem without breaking our country apart.
And indeed, and you followed how things played out earlier today. That nationwide demonstration, enough is enough, as captioned by the NDC. The demands are quite clear in that petition, as I just ran through, Sheikh. The Electoral Commission's position about those demands as well are quite clear, widely publicized. What should be, in your view, the way forward after this, the posturing of the Electoral Commission as against the demands of the NDC?
Well, having to be a member of the Peace Council, I cannot express a personal opinion because under the circumstance, I'm very mindful of our collective decisions and what we can do. Indeed, I can say with confidence that ever since we heard that this demonstration was going to take place, we began some, as usual, from behind the scenes contacts to see what we can do to address, even if the demonstration comes on, to ensure that it is done more peacefully without causing any damage to anybody. And then we also see then after the demonstration, what next? And I think that the door is still open for all concerned and all stakeholders to engage in the dialogue. You know, dialogue is a process. And I'm sure that at the first instance of meeting between NDC and the Electoral Commission, it was just a first stage of the dialogue. And I think the dialogue is a process. So maybe that first meeting might not have led to a final resolution, but maybe another level of the discussion could lead us to a more agreeable position where almost everybody feels comfortable with the mode by which we sanitize the voters register. And so I think that we plead that cool heads prevail. Cool heads prevail. That's why all the parties have a council of elders. And then when we say you are an elder, it means that you are somebody gifted with wisdom, you have a lot of experience. And I think that rather than allow the country to explode, the elders of these two parties can come together and use the elderly wisdom so that even as we pursue our concerns, we will still keep the country together so that even in the aftermath of election, you can have a country that is stable to rule. I don't think that it would be good for you to inherit the country by way of leadership when the country is not cohesive, is divided against itself. You will not find it very, very comfortable. Right. So we are, like the Chief Imam has pleaded, he's only pleading to particularly the two contending parties. But the Chief Imam also has sent a caution to the Electoral Commission. But the credibility of the Electoral Commission is very, very important. Right. And to establish the credibility, public trust is so key for that credibility. And so the Electoral Commission carries the heavy duty of, guaranteeing trust. That's right. And they must continue to be working on building trust between the EC as an election management body, and indeed not NDC alone, but all the other political parties. when they all trust that everything will be transparent, everything will be credible, I'm sure that we will be saved the tension that we are all witnessing. So I add my vote to that of the National Chief Imam that the EC must sit up, look at its work very well, avoid what we call avoidable mistakes, and ensure that going ahead, we are still building the trust so that whatever assurance they give, I mean, the parties will feel assured.
Sheikh, appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. And Sheikh Aremia Shaibu speaks for the National Chief Imam. Appreciate you. Thank you for joining us. Let's stay a bit further on this. In the Ashanti region, the demonstration was peaceful until the time for presentation of the petition in the region. Aman Ibrahim Abubakar reported earlier that the police disapproval for all the demonstrators to enter the Electoral Commission premises turned chaotic. Here's exactly what happened. So that's the two angry supporters, and in fact these protesters earlier today in the Ashanti region. Ibrahim Abubakar is joining us on Zoom right now. Ibrahim, appreciate you. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. We understand that as a result of what we just saw, 3 persons have been arrested by the Ghana Police Service there. Tell us what's the latest on this one.
So, Alfred, as I speak to you now, all the 3 persons who were arrested have been released. In fact, the leadership of the NDC told the police at the EC office that until they release these 3 individuals, they are not leaving the premises. So the police had to give them that assurance that they just want to ask them some questions, after which they will hand them over to the leadership of the party. And as and when they need them for more questioning, then they will have to come to them for these 3 individuals. So, like I said, all 3 who were arrested have been released.
I see. And I'm sure that after this altercation that we saw there, it's led to some conversation as to what happened in there. What's been going on in the region as a result of this?
Well, I would say what would have been a beautiful demonstration rather turned chaotic. So initially when they began, so they got to the EC office, people lauded everything because it was done peaceful and in an orderly manner. In fact, the demonstrators were following the route. There wasn't a time that they decided to even go against the directives of the police. So we all thought that now that they've gotten to the EC premises to present the petition, then that demonstration would have been tagged as one of the most peaceful in the region. But unfortunately, because others were going against the agreement of allowing only the leadership of the party to enter into the premises of the EC, this whole confrontation erupted. And in fact, some police officers and also some of the protesters were injured and were sent to the hospital. So like you said, it has raised some conversation. The leadership were not too happy because this wasn't what they planned for. They wanted to hear that the following day they've had a successful demonstration, but unfortunately this chaotic scene happened. But in all, they said at the end of the day, looking at the massive turnout, they are satisfied with the whole turn of events.
Much for this update from the Ashanti regions. Ashanti regional correspondent Ibrahim Abubakar there followed the protesters in the Ashanti region every step of the way. This is your Election Command Center. On the back of this, the Ghana Police Service has issued a statement. We'll put parts of the statement on the screen right now, essentially commending the general public for the orderliness, generally or largely, of this nationwide demonstration. Ended peacefully in all locations with the exception of an isolated incident at Kumasi in the Ashanti region, which we just showed to you. In Kumasi, contrary to the arrangements agreed between the police and the organizers, the demonstrators attempted to push their way into the premises of the Electoral Commission, and then it says, and pelted the police with stones. The police managed to bring the situation under control and calm was restored. However, one police officer was injured during the incident and he is receiving medical attention. That's a statement issued by the Ghana Police Service on the incident I just showed to you. There's more of this on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. But there was one notable development during this protest earlier today. When the protesters got to the Electoral Commission office to present the petition to the officials at the Electoral Commission, you know, it's not too far away from the National Cathedral site where the National Cathedral was supposed to have been built by now. Well, we have some dugouts or we've seen some work going on there, which is supposed to be the foundation of the National Cathedral. Because of those holes that have been created and the rains that we've had, there was some water that had filled these holes dug at the National Cathedral site. And some of the protesters had a field day swimming at the National Cathedral site, probably for some blessings, you know. But take a look at this. Yeah. So these are the protesters just diving into what you're saying is not a swimming pool. I just have to put it on record. This is not a swimming pool. These are these holes dug, the foundation that has been dug at the National Cathedral site. And as a result of the rains over the period, we've had water that has been collected in this place. And these protesters then decided, some of them decided to just dive in and swim their anger and their frustrations against the easier way. There you have it. How about that for the cooling moment of an almost 8-hour protest? And this video is by Ketsi Dadzi TV. Captured these moments. That's on the lighter side of it. But there you have it. Yeah, I think some of these things obviously do happen on the funny side of, on the light side of what happened earlier today. And and talk about sports. Dennis Boberi-Wadam is going to be joining me in a bit. He was telling me that probably these persons are training for the Olympics to represent Ghana. But we certainly appreciate the team from Media General who are on the ground today. Eric Mayona-Egbeta, Judith Brown, we have also Ishmael, and then also the many other people who were there. Derek, who was in charge of the photos you see there. Clifford on the ground as well. Beatrice Edu at the Electoral Commission, the entire team. Great job done earlier today. So there you have it. There's more of these and everything related to this demonstration on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is your election command center. Coming up next, we explore the VAT regime on manifesto check here on your election command center. And there's a promise that was made by the NPP in this 2024 manifesto. Compare what was captured in the 2020 and 2016 manifesto as well. And that is manifesto check here on your election command center. The manifesto checker, Dennis Boberi-Wadam, is here. What's with the VAT regime and the promise to change the regime as we have it now?
Well, so tonight we are looking at the VAT story, and we decided to caption it, the MPP's promise to undo their own deeds.
Undo their own deeds?
Yes.
What did they do that they are seeking to undo?
Well, we'll find out that in a bit. But this promise is coming from the MPP's Manifesto 2024, and it is to the effect that they are promising to have some reforms in the VAT regime. And what they intend to do is by merging all the levies into a single line item levy and treat the merged levy as part of input and output VAT to eliminate the cascading effect in the current regime. So this is what has been captured in their 2020 manifesto. I mean, the NDC has a similar promise, but that is just to the effect that they want to undertake a comprehensive reform of Ghana's VAT regime to provide relief for households and businesses. And as we move forward, you understand what they mean by, the MPP means by the cascading effect, and what the NDC also means by giving relief to household and then businesses. Now, this is a transaction that was done by one of our colleagues in the newsroom. So he bought data for his household. And this is what you see by way of a receipt. What you have on the screen, you have a method of payment that has been indicated. Less tax actually means that this is the actual value
of the data
that the person bought.
Okay.
However, there's a CST, that's the communication service tax of 5%, which translates to a certain figure, 12.93. There's a National Health Insurance Levy, 2.5. There's Get Fund, 2.5.
All of this,
there's COVID.
46%.
Yes. Now there's what we call the VATable value. And then on that VATable value, you have 15% applied to it. And at the end of the day, he had to pay 330 cedis.
So let me understand this. So if you, after paying for all of this, so if you add the CST, NHIL, Get Fund, COVID-19, that's a separate tax on its own.
Exactly. So let's do that breakdown. Please. And you see that in the next slide.
Tell me.
So this is how it looks like. So this is how much the data costs, like I mentioned, less tax. you have 258.52 Ghana cedis. The communication service tax is 5%. So 5% of the amount of data gives you 12 cedis, 93 pesos. That aside, now mind you, this is not part of the VAT we're talking about. The VAT used to be Get Fund, National Health Insurance Levy, and then the flat rate, which you call the VAT, put together.
Right.
Before the MPP era, it used to be 17.5. What that means is that it was 12.5 for VAT, as in VAT, plus 2.5 Get Fund, plus 2.5 National Health Insurance Levy. And it was together as one.
I see. And
I will show you that in the next slide. But this is what they are doing. So this is the current regime.
Okay.
So first, you calculate the communication service tax. That amount is here. The National Health Insurance has its figure. The Get Fund, COVID-19 levy is there. Then you add all these elements. So 12 cedis plus 6.46, 6.46 plus 2.59, add it to the total amount of money, which was here.
258 cedis, 52 pesos.
That gives you 286.96. Now, on this figure, you calculate the flat rate of VAT, or the VAT itself,
15%.
which is 15%, which gives you 43
cedis.
43
cedis.
Yes. Now, add that figure to this again, then you get 330. What it means is that you have actually added the National Health Insurance, the Get Fund, and the COVID figures to the amount, the value of the data, and now having to deduct, to do a 15% of that again. The effect is not the same. Now let's look at what used to happen in the previous regime and how much you would have paid if you were doing the same transaction for the same value of data as in 258.52.
So in effect, this one, we're actually paying a total of about a little over 70 Ghana cedis in taxes.
Yes, if you do the calculation.
Okay.
Now let's move forward. So this is the previous regime, how it existed before we came to this.
Okay.
Now under that regime, simply what we would have done would have been for us to just take, so if it's 5% of CST, 5% of that, the figure, National Health Insurance 2.5, Get Fund 2.5, COVID 1, and just add up. In that case, straight up, you are getting a total of 325.74.
I see.
So by virtue of the MPP decoupling the National Health Insurance and then Get Fund from the flat rate, it has actually increased the amount of taxes that we pay. Now,
or what do you say, maybe the incidence of the tax, that's
yes,
the impact, right?
But mind you, even before we got to a VAT being 15%, it was 12.5%. It was in 2023 that the MPP increased it to 15%. Now, why we are saying the MPP's promise to undo...
The approval of this increase was by one vote in Parliament.
Exactly.
Call that.
Now, why we are saying that this is the MPP's promise to undo their own deeds is because we found ourselves in an era where it was like this. Straight up, you calculate, you will get something less. Now, they introduced a new regime where they decoupled it. The effect is much higher than it used to be. Now, we have the flag bearer of the same party that brought us here, promising us today that when he comes, he's going to take us back to where we were. Now, it's not even a question of a flag bearer. It's a question of party, because tonight we're looking at party manifestos.
Indeed.
This was an MPP government doing. It is their deed. The same MPP manifesto today, we are seeing in there that they are taking us.
So these are the details of the 2024 manifesto?
This is from the 2024.
Okay. All right.
So in essence, what we are saying is that it's a promise for them to undo their own deeds. And that's it for Manifesto Check tonight. The verdict, as always, is with the people.
With the people. But the evidence of the taxes and its impact is in our pockets. It's in
our colleague was actually crying. I mean, it's the reason he couldn't understand why it cost this, for him to pay this much. But hopefully, the next MPP government, with this promise, he will pay less than this.
Anyway, well, it's with the people a verdict, indeed. I thank you so much, Dennis Babawedam. There's more of this you can find on 3news.com. Coming up next, there's been a development at the National Sports Authority. The man at the top has been sacked, and we'll tell you why, and whether that solves the problems that we're faced with. From the sports journalist perspective, Sadiq Adams is going to be joining us. Stay with us.
No, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint, superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint.
Welcome back. This is Ghana Tonight. President Akufo-Addo has sacked the Director General of the National Sports Authority, NSA, Doji Numekevo, from his role. According to 3 sports sources at the Jubilee House, the decision takes immediate effect. President Akufo-Addo is said to have decided to relieve the Director General of the Sports Authority of his post following news about the poor state of the country's football pitches. Dr. Doji Numekevo was appointed as the interim Director General of the National Sports Authority on the 26th of February this year. 2024, following the departure of Professor Peter Chumesi, who served in that role for 6 years. So let's have a conversation on this. And sports journalist Sadiq Adams is joining us. We call him Sports Obama. Sadiq, it's good to have you connect with us here on Ghana Tonight. Good news for you. Does it give you indication that all our problems with this poor stadia we have now, at least, is being solved?
Well, thank you very much, Alfred. Not really. I think that the distraction is far too evident that a sack at this point does very little to what has been, omissions that have been done under the National Sports Authority. In fact, if the sacking of the National Sports Authority boss is going to change anything with respect to the international embarrassment we have received last week and this week, that would have been done. But nothing of the sorts would change the nature of the stadia, would change the fact that we are not going to play matches at home, and the fact that we do not currently, as a proud football nation, have one single Category 3 standard pitch. I think the decision to sack him may have emanated from other factors, because the president is quite aware what has transpired in the last few years and the money that has been sunk under the guise of renovating our various stadia.
I see. So you said this is a distraction at best from where you said. It's in no way give you any indication that this is a serious development in addressing our problems.
Not really, because the previous National Sports Authority director was charged at the Auditor General's report. So the Auditor General charged the National Sports Authority. He was sacked in March. That's 6 months ago. It did nothing. It did little to the nature of our pitches. There was Robert Safo-Mensah, who was found to have involved himself in misconduct in 2018. He was removed before Professor Chumesi was brought in. So from 2018 till date, the National Sports Authority has had 3 separate Director Generals. If these moves were going to change anything with respect to their structure and governance, I have been in this, and I think that this is only a distraction. 1, 2, the damage has been caused, and 3, the new person coming will do very little within this short time to get us back. Because the problem is not about the changing of the National Sports Authority director. It is about the whole governance structure that has been politicized. This is an office that should be depoliticized. It requires expertise. It requires people to stay longer, have institutional memory, people with the professional touch to know how to manage sporting infrastructure. And we are going to get another political appointment. And at the end of the day, the same incompetence and the extreme level of negligence that has characterized the National Sports Authority is not going to change if the governance structure and the appointing powers of the president doesn't change. If you are still going to get political people, the previous National Sports Authority director was contesting for parliamentary seat in his constituency. This current National Sports Authority director is currently contesting, and I have understood that it's one of the reasons why his CV kept long and the president kept contemplating on the decision, because he's going to contest for a highly contestable seat in the Greater Accra region. Until we stop the appointment of political people, square pegs in round holes, nothing substantial is going to change to the stadia in this country.
It's important to make this point, because all the videos of the stadia we have in this country that we're showing on our screens, disgraceful to say the least, is it not?
It's very embarrassing. to know that at this point, Ghana is in the same category as Central African Republic, Djibouti, Eritrea, Burundi, Somalia, Sudan, countries that are war-torn, Chad, Niger, countries that have been banned by CAF for lack of suitable playing surface. And we were founding father of CAF. We were one of the first African countries to join FIFA. Of all the countries that have been banned, we are the only country to have attended the World Cup on 4 different occasions and 24 times at the African Cup of Nations. Some of them have not even qualified before for the AFCON since its inception. And when things like this happen and there is leadership, it should send strong signals and, bold statements should be made. We have been talking about this for a very long time. If you see the nature of the stadia in this country, as of 2015, 2016, 2017, I can be very emphatic. As of 2017, we had 4 of our stadia passing the requisite or the requirement for granting the approval for hosting a CAF category 2 or 3 game as of 2017. As of today, that's like 7 years down the lane, we do not have one. So from 4 or 5, because we hosted Uganda in Tamale in 2017, Mediama and Asante Kotoko played in the FA Cup in 2015 final in the Sipon. Cape Coast have been used to host matches until the 6th match distraction, Kumasi Sports Stadium, Accra Sports Stadium. So we had 5 as of 2017. What may have transpired to the point that all of them are in complete distraction and embarrassment?
It's deplorable, to say the least, dishonorable, despicable. It's scandalous if you think about it.
If we don't see this as a national shame, I don't know. And you saw how the CAF president was decrying and feeling shy to mention the name of Ghana, that what on earth will lead to a country like Ghana not having a standard, that is the basic pitch to host matches. And when I say it's not about the manner of sacking people, the negligence that 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days to a game, an international game, the National Sports Authority is able to grant access of the playing fields for all manner of events, including music, concert, church. And we know that the natural, reclamation of the pitch takes over 2-3 months to get it to the standard. If you have a Director General of the National Sports Authority who goes ahead to grant access to church events for cars to be driven on the field with 10 days or 15 days to an international game, it means that he is either being negligent, he is ignorant of the role he's occupying, or he's purely incompetent. And you can combine that perhaps it is all, enveloped in the recklessness that they deal with. Because if you do this, you are destroying the stadium, you are destroying the pitch. But what they are interested in is the money they get. And that is why I'm surprised that they have kept long maintaining this political structure of the National Sports Authority. Instead of, the scandals there is serious. The amount of money we waste under the guise of renovating stadium in this country could have built an entirely new stadium in another jurisdiction. And that's a shame and an embarrassment that we have gotten this far. I think that sacking him will not change anything, because the previous Sports Authority Director was on the same path. He was sacked 6 months ago. Now we don't even, when he was leaving, we had one. Now we have none.
Unfortunately, it's getting worse, is it not? Sadiq, thank you. Thank you so much for leaving us with a reality check to go to bed with and think about all the sorrows and wake up in the morning, hopefully, to a brighter day. But make a date with the New Day team. Tomorrow morning, they bring you the constituency and the community manifesto. They're bringing the voices and the microphone to a community near you. So make some time and watch New Day tomorrow morning. And across all media journal platforms, there's a lot of offering for you in the morning. My name is Alfred Ocansey. On behalf of the rest of the team here on Ghana Tonight, to have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
This program is rated PG. It contains scenes of brief nudity, mild violence, and strong language. Parental guidance is advised.
This program is brought to you by
MTN.